Europe, which is the largest economy in the world, it's an $18 trillion economy, America's a $15.5 trillion economy, has even worse demographics than Japan had in 1988. If you put a roof over an English village, it's an old age home. Italy has a declining population, which is remarkable for a Roman Catholic country. Yeah, on top of that, you've got all the debt in Europe. So the idea of a flat universe for Europe over the next 15 to 20 years is, for us, our favorite scenario. But of course, the demographics of some of the other continents are much better, and particularly Africa, particularly South America. China is becoming dodgy. If you actually look at China, it's no longer a pyramid, it's like a square because of the one-child policy. But Alex was absolutely right to say that the attitude towards Africa has completely changed from the hopeless continent which the Economist described Africa as about 11 years ago to a continent of real commercial opportunity now. And what many multinational companies are doing is chasing the V in Africa because they're not going to see the V in Europe.
We are the 32nd largest economy in the world. But when we look at the World Competitiveness Report, recently released by the World Economic Forum, we rate it as the 52nd most competitive economy. I want to argue that the starting point is for us to enhance our competitiveness, move to a position where we are in the top league, top 20 economies that are most competitive, top 10, and be in the top 5. We have got companies from the developed world, from emerging markets, from the BRICS, criss-crossing the African continent, and that to me is a challenge, and that to me is a threat to our preeminence in the continent, to our ability to also work with the rest of Africa. When we look at South Africa in the context of emerging markets, we are well positioned. We've got very good relationships with those emerging markets. We've got core competencies that they don't have, and we can leverage those to build a success story in South Africa and to position South Africa as a great nation and indeed as a first world economy.
We're now in populations that have the same problem as Japan. You're sitting with a huge debt pile, and you're sitting with governments intent on re-regulating everything and increasing the cost of doing business. And you're sitting with an environment that's incredibly competitive because growth is just, there is very little growth in the developed markets. The flip side of that is your emerging market economies generally have very young populations, which is a positive and a negative. If we make it work, it's a huge positive because you've got this labor force coming through, you've got this forceful consumption coming through, you've got a huge, I mean, just think for ShopRite and Pick n Pay and Woolies. You've got this huge client base growing up. But if you don't create jobs for them, you know, you get more Marikanas and you get and I think that's really where we are. We're again at a crossroad where you can go either way.